And thank you once again for joining me for the Fallacious Truth here. This is the third and final installment of the story portion of this. The next video I do after this one, it's going to be an in-depth analysis of this whole thing. Plus, as I said in the previous video, we're going to use this story to set the stage and, like I said, change a few things around here and there. We're going to make it so she actually puts up a fight, as far as right when she says that she doesn't want to be together anymore and she wants a divorce. We're going to change it around and use it as an example as to what we as men could and should do as soon as we are faced with a divorce if we have not had the time to plan out a divorce over X number of months or even over a year. If you are surprised with the divorce, didn't see it coming as this fella very clearly didn't, there are several things that you absolutely need to do in order to give yourself a better standing for the divorce when court comes around and all the other BS that goes along with it. So please stay tuned till the end and make sure you listen to the fourth video once I get it recorded here, because if you're a man struggling with this is something you absolutely need to hear and take heed to. So please sit back and enjoy the last part of the story here. Things went okay at first. She was living with this guy, but within several months, chinks began to appear in their relationship. He apparently drank way too much, was pretty shiftless, lived off of his family, and really wasn't much of a man. He apparently also had a wandering eye and was already lining up for his next conquest. She was apparently a young girl who worked at another restaurant, which his father also owned. Of interest is that I continued to order my food from the original establishment. The owner would always greet me when I came in for my order and always had a look of embarrassment on his face. I would never stay in the place because it would have always been awkward. My ex-wife was working there and was living with his son. If you toss in that he deserted his wife also, the owner was not pleased. The owner was a family man, and he once told me that he didn't understand where he went wrong with his own son. Of course, and to no great surprise, things began to go downhill for this new, exciting power couple. They were fighting all the time, and things were not going so well for my ex-wife. I think my ex-wife was seeing that perhaps I was not all that bad of an option, and the grass isn't always greener on the other side. With me, she had a solid man who put her and the kids first. I was a good husband, and perhaps she made a really poor decision. She did call me several times to lament about her life, but I told her that I was not the person to talk to about this. Well, good for you. I'm glad you said that. She answered that I had been fighting with her best friend, and she could always talk to me. What? I told her that had been true, but things had changed, that I didn't feel comfortable being a part of the discussion, and she needed to work things out on her own with her new partner. I did not want to be involved in her relationships. She did agree, but I think that I could also sense some hurt and regret in her voice when she hung up after I told her this. One night, she had the kids over at her apartment with her dirtbag boyfriend to have a sleepover and watch some movies. That evening, I had an upset call from her. Apparently, this guy drank too much and was frustrated that the kids didn't want to watch one of his shows. I'm not sure what the show was, but apparently the kids had no interest. So he got mad, slapped my youngest daughter because he thought she was being snotty. This was a hard slap that left a mark on her cheek. Oh my gosh. I don't want to even make known what I would have done had I been in that situation. So I get a call and went right over there. My first inclination was to call the cops, and maybe I should have. Yeah, you should have. You need to have this on a record. You need to document all of this stuff. But I did go over there to get my kids. I took my kids and left. I told him that if I heard anything else from him about this, my next would be to call the cops, and that he would be in real trouble. I do admit that I got some pleasure out of telling my ex-wife. And so this is what she left me for? She didn't say anything, but she did hang her head. I think she was ashamed at what had taken place, and I'm not sure if that meant that she regretted the divorce, but I do think she realized that what she had done was regretful. My friend, who cares? Why are you so concerned about this? What's done is done. There is no turning back. Yeah, she may have regrets, but I'm sorry, they're not your problem. You need to realize this. Taking her back does nothing but perpetuate her own bad behavior. Lo and behold, later that night, I get a knock at the door, and there she is sobbing and was very upset. I did let her come in, and she told me that she had broken up with her boyfriend and wanted to come home. I have not read this. I'm going to be pissed if he takes her back. He should not take her back. Quite honestly, he shouldn't even let her in the house. He should have told her to stay outside of the house. This is your problem and your problem alone. Now, I thought long and hard for several minutes. I told her that I loved her and that we had history, but I could not do that. Good. I am very pleased with this answer. With everything that had taken place, I didn't think it was a good idea for her to come back, and there were just too many sad memories. I would have never left the mother of my children alone in the street. She did come in, she did call her parents. I took her there to stay. My former father-in-law met me at the door and thanked me. He told me that I had always been a good man and a good husband. He appreciated that I had always put the kids first and did look out for the safety of his daughter as my ex-wife. I did tell him that I would always love his daughter. Maybe things didn't go the way we wanted, but I would never let any harm come to her. To this day, I'm proud of what I did that night and what I decided to do to protect my kids and, in the end, my ex-wife. Well, what you may have done is commendable. You took a huge risk by just letting her in the home. I mean, I went over this in one of my previous videos, but I'll leave a link in the description here, and actually I'll see how, I'm not quite sure. I'll figure out how to put it at the top here like, other people do. But you took a huge risk letting her back into the house. She lived at her parents' house for about a year until she can get back up on her feet. She did get a good job and moved into her place of her own. She was always a good mother, and her old vitality and spark returned. It wasn't perfect, but there was some sense of normalcy. She did have a string of relationships that didn't go anywhere, and I think she was taken advantage of several times. Several times she would tell me that I was the best relationship she had ever had, that anybody ever could have. Maybe that was a lot of cheap talk, but I did like to hear it. All that being said, nothing romantic ever happened again between us, and I retained a cordial, respectful relationship with her. I could have been with her again if I wanted to, but I didn't want to take that step. In my heart, I wanted to, but was basically scared of being hurt again. Well, my friend, you made a good choice in not going back to that all over again because she did it once, and 9 chances out of 10 she'll do it again. She's running back to you because she knows that you are security for her, and that's about it. During this time, I had dated several women, but nothing serious from a relationship perspective. Several of them wanted more, but I was not going to go there. I was focused on my work and my kids, and I really had no interest in another marriage or a long-term relationship. There were just too many bad memories, and I decided that going solo was the best route for me. The years did fly by. My kids did well, attended college, had good careers, got married, and started families. I would see my ex-wife at family events on a regular basis. She would always ask me if I was seeing anybody, and it would always come around that, was there still a chance to get back together? I always told her no because in life, some things suck and you just can't get away from them. She would always look sad, and she would tell me that her decision to leave me was the worst mistake that she had ever made. She told me there's not a day that goes by when she does not think about the what-ifs. She also told me that it was especially hard for her to attend weddings, birthday parties, and other family events. Well, who cares? That's not your problem. Consequences and actions. You reap what you sow, and that's what's happening to her. She told me that the toughest days for her, from this perspective, was at the funerals for her mother and when her father died. She was greatly saddened when she saw me there, but I wasn't her husband or her partner. She knew that I was a strong man and a good husband to her. But on these days, she felt alone and had great regret. She also felt this way at weddings for both of our children. She thought that would have been great days that we would have shared together. She asked me if I ever felt the same way. My answer has always been that the experience was sad for me, but I decided to move forward and not look back. I always felt that her regret was ironic since she was so sure that true happiness was in her new boyfriend. We're now pushing 60, and I was thinking about hanging it up at work and moving elsewhere. Somewhere warm, at least for the cold months. My kids support me and do love their mother. The last time I talked to my ex-wife before moving was at a birthday party for one of our grandchildren. She asked to speak to me alone, and we stepped outside. She then became very emotional and upset. She always thought there was a chance for us to get back together. My moving would signify the absolute end, and that she had experienced a lifetime of regret and failing as a wife. I told her many years had gone by and that she shouldn't feel that way. I had nothing but respect and admiration for her. She then asked if she could potentially come and visit me. I told her that I didn't know, but I'd think about it. I admit that every single time I looked into her beautiful green eyes, my heart would melt. On this day, she looked exceptionally beautiful to me, and the years had been very kind to her. On this day, I admit that, regardless of what had taken place, I never felt more intense love for her than I did at that particular moment. At this point in my life, I thought that maybe I would welcome having a relationship with her again. I would not get remarried, but what did I really have to lose at this point? She did make me happy at one time, and the love that I had for her never really went away. At this point in time in our lives, maybe we could go forward. Even considering this at 60 plus would make me hesitant, but If this situation were him being younger, I would absolutely, unequivocally say no. There is just, you have too much life left. There is simply too much of, there's too much of a danger for you. You know, this guy sounds like he's head over heels for her no matter what she does, whenever she did it. It doesn't sound like it's ever going to change as well. To some, that may be admirable, but to me, that's, I don't know, I kind of see that as not a weakness, but a vulnerability. It's a vulnerability to be exploited. And, you know, maybe that's just me looking too deeply into it, but I would never in a million years consider this, especially at a younger age, taking her back in any way, shape, or form. I know this has been a pretty long story thus far, but we've also got an update. He goes on to say here that he's been living in the Carolinas for the winter, and his ex-wife did come to see him. Crazy, I know, but all the old feelings are still there. She stayed at my place, and we went and did many things together. I'm pleased to report that maybe we are older, but learn that we can still do well together with that, and then it has in quotes, special time. She was here for a weekend, but it stretched out into 2 weeks and then into a month. One night, she started to cry and sob because of what happened literally years ago. She told me that the past several weeks had brought her great happiness, and she is so sorry for what happened. She told me that she constantly thought about the what-ifs, and that she had wasted her life looking for some type of utopian relationship that simply can't exist. I told her that's all in the past, and maybe the time had come for us to move on and reconsider having a future together. I told her that I've always loved her, and my feelings have never died, and maybe she would like to come down with me permanently. I told her that I'm not ready for a marriage again, but did it really make a difference at this point in our lives? She agreed, actually never left my home, and things have been going great. The kids had a look of absolute shock on their faces when we told them, but they were also very happy for us. My youngest daughter told me that she wasn't really surprised because she knew that my love for her mother never really died, and she had a feeling that things were not over. Some people reading this may think that I'm crazy for doing this again after so many years, but at this point in our lives, there is only love and respect. And I'd have to disagree with that. There may be love on your end, but on her end, it's nothing but regret, and she's simply at this point, she doesn't want to die alone, and she knows you are the best and safest bet there is out there. I mean, that's just my personal opinion. Anyhow, what happened so many years ago is in the past. Now, when I see my wife, and I admit I've always considered her to be my wife, I only feel love and affection. I think things will get even better, and hopefully we will have many good years ahead together in our old age. She really made a bad decision, but that's all in the past. I think we've both faced the consequences, but I now look forward to life and moving forward. Perhaps it's hokey, but one thing is important to me. I always thought that we were writing a book together, but was saddened that we never got a chance to finish it. I am pleased that we now have a chance to finish writing this book, and it now includes the final chapters. Would my wife cheat again? I don't think so, not at this stage in our lives, but age and experience has shown me that people can be a mixed bag. There's good and there's bad in all of us, and one action or decision doesn't make or break a person. My regret is that I've always loved my wife, and I had sad feelings dictate what I decided to do. Maybe I should have just recognized that fact that she is human and she made a bad decision. Perhaps I should have given this a shot earlier and things would have been better. I do think about the what-ifs also, but I'm glad we now have this second chance. With that, please let me conclude, and hopefully I have a perspective that some of you have been able to consider. Alright, like I said, I know this was super long. I had to split this up into a few videos here. There's actually quite a bit that I want to say about this. It's obviously not going to be in this video. I'm going to make a commentary video and post it up soon hereafter, once I get it written and spelled out here. There's quite a bit that needs to be said about this, especially from the perspective of risks that he took that could have had very negative consequences if his ex-wife wasn't in the state of mind that she was, with a complete and utter infatuation with a new individual. And before we conclude this, I really think that these things do need to be addressed. So, alright, so basically we ended up with a story here. We have, the story starts out with boy meets girl, girl meets boy. They hit it off. A few years down the road, pop out a couple kids. Husband and wife go to have a third child. There is a miscarriage. And that is supposedly where the issues start. At least in his mind, that's where the issues start, was after the miscarriage. But if you pay close attention, the issues actually started prior, because she let slip that he didn't notice just how unhappy she was in the marriage. And apparently this miscarriage was the last straw. So she ends up leaving him. He gets on the hook for alimony for a little bit. He does keep the kids, but that's most likely only because she was too infatuated with the new Chad to care at that time. And that's one of the things that you as men, if you have kids, you can definitely use that to your advantage. As far as making sure your kids are with you, making sure you have primary and you get to make the decisions for your children's lives. Because I guarantee you, the decisions you make, as long as you have your head on straight, and I would have to assume that the vast majority of you do, your decisions are going to be much more sound, logical, and to their benefit than her decisions would be. I mean, statistics show that the father in the home, especially after the very young years, is far, far more beneficial to the child. Ripping the father out of the child's life is one of the worst things you can possibly do to a child. Physically, emotionally, developmentally, the father must be in the child's life. Yes, of course, a mother and a father are always best as far as a child is concerned. But if given the choice, if the situation must be one of the two, the father is, like I said, statistically, developmentally, educationally, as far as bringing up the child to be the best person they can be, to give the best guidance, to keep the child on the straight and narrow, there is no substitute for the father. Well, thank you for sticking around for all 3 segments here. I'm gonna hopefully have this this 4th video up in about, I'd say, 24 to 36 hours. It's gonna take a little bit of time to do a correct and deep analysis into everything that I want to look at. So thank you for sticking around. Stay tuned, and as always, please like, share, and subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. Thank you, and take care.